Okay, we're back live for today in his glasswork studio. Got an area set up. We're going to demonstrate some of the saws and grinding equipment. We're going to focus this one on the saws, but for function, what we're going to do, we're going to be demonstrating cutting wine bottles. Okay, I'm going to start the demonstration with the RevolutionXT and show you a little bit about it. This is the basic unit. These are the racks for the sliding tray. The sliding tray and this rack is a separate accessory. It's nice for long, straight cuts. Useful, depends on your projects. The saw comes with a standard blade that can be adapted to a glass blade. It also comes with a little dressing block. We have larger ones when this is gone. This is used for dressing and sharpening the blade. When you believe the blade is cutting slowly, you just make single, very thin slices through it, and it will wear away a little metal and expose new diamond. The saw itself, like I said, comes with just the basic unit here. The water is self-contained in the bottom. The blade and the belt system go through the water, so it's always providing water to the blade. You need to check and make sure that there's always water in the container. If you're doing a great deal of cutting, a little ice in the water will make for more efficient cuts. But I'm going to demonstrate first, without the sliding tray, how to cut a bottle. Safety glasses on, because there will be chips of glass flying. But if you want a straight cut, a curved cut, angled, whatever, the saw is very versatile. I'm basically going to demonstrate maybe both, two different cuts. I won't be talking while I'm cutting. Start with an angled cut, just so you can see how functional it is, and then I'll tighten it up and just roll it into the blade to try and make as straight a cut as possible. May have noticed I was curving it while I cut, just to show you that capability. Also, at the very end is when you want to go as slow as possible so you don't knock a big chunk out. Two things you need to realize: there's lots of little pieces of glass fly. You can put band-aids on your fingers before you cut yourself or after. In my case, this is after. Okay, now I'm going to do a straight cut, and I'm basically just going to roll the bottle into the blade. You can hold it straight and cut. Whatever you end up doing is, if it works for you, what's right for you. Now I'm going to clean this up and then put the tray on so you can see the next step. Now we'll be demonstrating with the sliding tray. It's not on bearings, it rides on felt within a track, and it's magnetic, so it's a little firm, but you'll have to get used to that. At any rate, again, safety glasses are important. You'll see when you're cutting glass like this, glass chips will be everywhere. So protect your eyes or have a trip to the emergency room. Okay, the sliding tray kit comes with this handy little magnetic angle that you can use to position, and if you're making angled cuts, you can make them uniform every time. It's also magnetic to here, that if you wanted to be making significantly or properly sized bottles, you could do it that way. You need to be careful when you're doing that this blade will not cut through the bottle all the way. It will touch that and you'll be missing this little area here. So two ways around that I've come up with would be doing it this way and then sliding through, which I will demonstrate in a moment. Or the other thing is you can get a strip of wood or whatever to give you a little room away from there. I try to go as slow as possible, but if you go too fast, it's going to break out at the very end. That's really not that bad a chip and very easily ground out. If you go too aggressively and too quickly, you may get a big chunk cut out. Since wine bottles are plentiful, you can learn from your mistakes. This is the MK saw, has a 10-inch blade. This is our result diamond blade. Our finest and smoothest cutting blade, but don't presume you're not going to get chips. The nature of glass is that it breaks. So carefully put that over the shaft. The spacer here has a little step and a flat side. Flat side goes out. This puts the pressure on the blade to keep it running as true as possible. Carefully hold the blade while you're tightening it without bending the blade. Now, I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do. I won't be able to talk while it's sawing because it, along with all these other pieces of equipment, are quite noisy pieces of equipment. But holding the blade, the bottle where you want, again, there are inch marks and centimeter marks, so if you want a 5-inch cup, you hold it that way. Again, you may have noticed cutting slow is always your friend. A little bit of chip came out. On this side, fortunately, probably because I was holding this nice and firm and this was able to vibrate a little. I introduced the Covington 12-inch diamond grinder. They have a couple different models. It's very well built, very heavy, more than a tabletop machine, but smaller than a floor machine. So you're gonna have to work that out. Get it to the height you want, or it's very comfortable working on when you're sitting in a chair. I like working standing up, so it's gonna be on a base. At any rate, the wheel is a 12-inch, as I said, and it has quite a number of adapters and functionality to it. It will come with just a 1-inch plug that the spanner will tighten it down and into the hole. It does tighten down further. So in this case, you can use a diamond disc with a 1-inch arbor hole. Fits right on, very helpful to center it, have it running the way you want. It also has the option of, and if you stand back a little, water to bubble up while you're grinding. So it'll keep everything wet. You can use this, especially useful when you're grinding bowls, where the water will always be where the water is making contact. So this unit that has the water coming up through the center is a variable speed unit. It's directional. So you can dial in the speed you want. Let it turn off, and reversible. Now with this adapter, we have an option of a 5/8 11 cone that can be used for grinding the inner surface or the inner edge of a cut bottle. There's two hoses here, lock line for applying water, because every diamond step should be done wet. So we'll demonstrate that a little later. This machine has the functionality with this brush to contain the overspray, so you're not working in a shower. That is removable by itself. The stainless steel guard. This can be taken out and the brush returned if you want to work pieces that are long, that will go through and have no obstruction. This is the bottom of the bottle that was cut, and you can see the chips on the edges, some large, some small. But if you see the largest chips, that is how far you're going to need to grind down. Now, looking at the bubble level, simply try to center that in the dip of the bottle. You're going to want to have the bubble pretty level while you're grinding. Otherwise you'll have crooked glass. It goes on magnetically. Do your best to center it over the center pilot. Make sure it's down well, there's no grit or chips of glass beneath it, which would cause a bump. And then we will turn the machine on. Two options for water again. One is bubbling up through the center. The other option is water coming from the side. My personal preference. The water is just there, and you can control with the valve a lot of water or just a little water, which will be important with different grits. This is the bottle that I just ground. I ground it on a 140 grit disc. You can see the chips are far minimized. There will be still a little bit of chipping from the diamond grit. Each successive grit will remove more and more of the chips until you end up with a nice, sharp, smooth edge. Changing the disc, simple as do. Magnetic. Off goes the more aggressive. On goes the finer grit. Water prepared. Chain on. I'm going to be grinding with the 270 grit. The first was 140, this is the 270, so it's finer. I'm not going to bother with a bubble level. With experience, I've learned that by turning, I can maintain its degree of flatness or being level. Now for illustration, these are two glasses that I've ground. The first one here is the 140 grit. You can see the scratching on it is a bit more aggressive, obviously because the diamond is larger. A little bit of chipping around the edges. This one is the 270 grit. The chipping is virtually gone. I've gone down beyond the chips that were left from the 140, and it leaves a smoother, finer finish. Putting in the 5/8 inch adapter. On that, screw a cone. This is brown. It's also the same grit as this. Enough water to get the pad wet. And for smoothing, I tend to use a little bit less water. It's a very fast drip. You do need to be careful you don't hit your glass on the edge of the cone. That will scratch your glass. Now again, next step in illustration, this is the grit from the 270 grit. and this is the 325 grit smoothing pad. Any little chips that would be left from the 270 are gone. This is a nice flat smooth finish. Now for the outer bevel, you can carefully do this, not applying much pressure at all. That will put a little bevel right there. Then I like to go one more time just to smooth out, just in case there are any little chips from that little beveling point. Now we have the inner lip to consider. For that, you want to have water coming down with enough room for you to get into it, and slowly turning, going up and down. You don't want to just jam it on there because it will set up a vibration that will destroy your glass and probably cut your hands at the same time. This way you're also using most of the cone, and not, if you're just doing it in one spot, you're going to grind a groove in it. So you want to avoid that if you can. You see I'm slowly turning and using as much of the surface of the cone as possible. This one was done just on the 325 smoothing pad, and I have not done any of the bevels. On the other one, you may be able to see a slight bevel. Doesn't take much to be comfortable on your lip. You just don't want that nice sharp edge. So there's a little bit of bevel inside and out. This pad is a cerium oxide polishing pad. Again, I'm going to make sure that the wheel is perfectly clean. The back of the magnet is clean. For this case, I'm going to show you using a pad with no hole. It can be done. It's just personal preference to have the centering. I find that polishing works best at a slower speed. This is again something you'll have to fine tune to find exactly if you need half speed, a little higher, a little lower, to find what works best for you. But the next step is to thoroughly clean out the glass, that no little chips of glass will have the possibility of contaminating the polish pad. You will need water, enough to keep the pad damp. You don't need to flood it, because too much water can cause hydroplaning. And right now, and it's not hurting my fingers, I'm just running my fingers along to make sure it's wet over the whole thing uniformly. Leaving this water running like that. I'm going to center the edge, and not a great deal of pressure. Sound is normal with this kind of pad. Now the rim of the glass having been polished for about as long as you saw, and the time will be a little more, a little less based on the thickness of the glass, the size of it, and how you use the pad. You can see that there's still a little bit of haze on the inner lip from the cone. And like I said, we have cones with finer grits. This is a 325. We also have a 600 and a 1200. 1200 would obviously give much closer to a polish, although not actual polish. And the pads we have in 600 and 1200 also for this outer bevel. You might really consider a 600 grit for the outer lip. But you may see the quality of the polish. And here you have a nicely finished glass made out of a wine bottle.